What can I bring? I was heading to an old friend's house for the evening and I wanted to contribute. I'll pick up wine. I was going to Costco and it was the least I could do. We'd been messaging back and forth all summer and now I'd pinned her to a date. It wasn't as though we'd lost touch. That wasn't it. More like our lives had shifted, the way they do when you have vast bands that you can qualify with phrases like 20 years ago or in 10 I'll retire. We reached out every so often. It started with a heartbreaking tragedy, the way so many reconnections do, but grew from there like a small, carefully tended plant that didn't need much water. Enough to be acknowledged every once in a while, placed in the sun to stretch up, and then capable of hibernating for long periods of time. But this summer was different. This summer we were compelled to talk, and messages flew back and forth, an endless stream of sifting together through what felt like a hard dump of events onto a world that we both knew. I need to see you, I said. She agreed, but when the close of summer was real, she pushed back gently. Maybe September, and explained how busy those last few weeks were. I was explicit, knowing now with more time behind than in front, that if I don't say what I mean, I can't expect people to know. A difficult lesson and one I'm still practicing. I used my voice now, though, to say it all. I understand, I wrote, or something like that, but I need you. I need this night. I felt naked laying it all out like that. Also needy. She owed me nothing. No one does. And yet here I was asking. She wrote back quickly. You're right, she said. I was avoiding this. I showed up on a perfect day. There are not many of those where I live, and so when they come, we all take note. The air was still and quiet. And the scent of flowers and fresh cut grass and hot summer day cooling at dusk was something to behold, and we knew it. Couple nature's cooperation with the artful creativity of her outdoor space, and I felt no word of a lie, like I'd traveled into another world. A beautiful movie where time had slowed and every detail leaped to be noticed. Thoughtful light strands strung, winking. Cozy seating, tumbled with pillows and blankets so I could sit just so. Carefully curated music, providing the exactly right backdrop for it all. The view from the deck of the endless perfect work that is hers, the making of a sanctuary in the middle of a dry, dusty town. Fairy magic was real back there, I know it. There was no agenda or direction, but an endless, looping, curling conversation that felt like a dance. Like we were writing music together and had touched a moment of pure, unabashed synchronicity. Is that crazy? It sounds crazy. Maybe it is. But maybe I need to touch that otherworldly, the magic every once in a while, to be whole. Too often would be dangerous, and I enter mostly deliberately and with care, but sometimes it's good, truly good, to sit as though I'm under the care of benign shamanistic spirits. I bought 4 packs of cigarettes, she announced as she puttered when I first arrived. I laughed. How much do you smoke? 4 sounded like an awful lot. It didn't just sound like it. It was. 2 for you and 2 for me, she corrected. I was instantly dismissive. I'd smoked for years. The first was the half-finished butt in an ashtray in the house where I babysat the angry children of an angry woman whose husband worked out of town. A woman who occasionally brought back a man who was not that husband at the end of her night out, a man she described as a friend, cautioning me to keep it quiet because, well, people wouldn't understand. I was only 14, but I understood enough and kept her secret for her, tucking it away where there were already so many secrets. I was practiced at that, tending to those secrets, my own garden, but already overgrown, messy, weedy. I bought my own packs soon after, first understanding this simple rebellion as an indicator of my power to stamp my life as mine. Smoking also introduced me to others who smoked, a way into a world of misfits, which was exactly where I'd decided I belonged. I knew I couldn't be anything else, and so with these broken people, I stood outside doors, around corners. I hid lighters and packs and smoked like my life depended on it. Maybe I think it did. Later, I smoked willfully and with abandon. I was addicted, certainly, but it was also my way of declaring, well, that I did this thing in exact contradiction to all the noise which said smoking is awful and gross and a deliberate harm. The throwdown of a resentful young woman with no idea what to do with the dripping hypocrisy she met every day and the anger she simmered on a constant low heat. It worked for a while. I met the fun people smoking, the ones outside the church halls at weddings, the ones tucked under an eave at a party. I met the ones who smoked occasionally, the moniker social, ascribing exactly what I intended for my own self. Asking for a light or bumming a cigarette was an easy approach for someone who craved connection but wore her own raw hurt on the outside, like a terrible dress graffitied with the long list of wrongs she felt she'd been done, quickly repelling anyone she understood had value, because if she measured herself against, she knew she'd come up wanting. Then one grandma died and then the other, 2 deaths near each other in time, yet so different, even with the same results. Both died in pain, but the process so starkly distinct for each, one a smoker and one not. And I understood, in a way that I'd not yet allowed myself to, that this thing I was doing, wearing with such pride and such shame, was complicit in my own impending mortality, a slow burn of suicide instead of a quick release. It was instant, my decision to stop. No last celebratory cigarette, no formal declaration. I took the half-full pack into the kitchen and put it in the garbage and poured water over top to soak any last-minute urges. I wrote motivational sayings on yellow sticky notes and tacked them all over my apartment on door frames and mirrors, and just like I had when I studied for exams, forced myself to slow down and read, not just read, to consider every time I passed by. I started a regime of self-care, not knowing that was what it was, but knowing I had to do something to honor the body I'd abused. I drank water with lemon squeezes and ate plates of fresh vegetables, and someone kind I only vaguely knew brought me a basket of ripe tomatoes. And I tasted them the way you can when your mouth isn't dulled by smoke and unhappiness. I bought a large swimsuit to cover the body I'd allowed to become padded with the other habits that come with smoking and late nights, the burgers and Chinese and takeout. I swam in the small, heavily chlorinated pool in the parking lot behind my apartment, back and forth every morning until I couldn't anymore. I sourced a bootlegged copy of a fitness boxing video and sweated every afternoon in my living room, at first in agony, but slowly improving until I could finally finish without taking a break. With a slight hit of self-confidence, I joined a gym and ran on the treadmill, a minute at a time and incrementally and painfully longer each day. I was gentle with myself and my expectations and careful to acknowledge my effort with yoga at home, the swell of the music, and the instructor's voice guiding me to peace in my body and also in my mind. I drank less alcohol, more water, and understood finally no one was coming to save me. Whatever I wanted was up to me to provide. And then I had to decide what that was. How to know was a process and still is not fully realized, but the graceful beauty of each day has allowed me to move closer to what is, and I'm grateful. That night with my old friend, I sank into my seat and into a conversation that flowed, and within 30 minutes flicked the lighter to ignite my journey back into complete and total addiction, surprising myself even as I generally don't. I've been the hater, the one who offers stink eye to smokers and a zero-tolerance approach to a habit I've loudly and publicly proclaimed wrong, wearing my own quit status like a bejeweled crown of righteousness high on my head. I've joked about smoking again when I'm 85, and I suppose I figured maybe I would, but it would have been no skin off my teeth if I didn't. What I meant by that statement was to show how I'd loved it, how submerged I'd been in its throes, and how perhaps one day I'd open the door again to this old companion when it no longer mattered. I smoked that night, and the next morning when I woke up, the first thing I thought of was smoking again. I dipped down deep, buying a pack I realized I couldn't afford at 3 times the price I'd paid long ago, learning the new names and seeing but not seeing the blunt warnings inscribed. I smoked, hidden in fields and around the corner and worrying I'd leave a smoldering butt to ignite the grass, but still. I walked and smoked and settled into rebelling against. Against what? What is it I'm doing? I parse it all still and am only slowly arriving at the answers glimmering like ghosts. I'd shifted myself from reaction, from liquid living blame long ago. I made a list of what I wanted and then I got it. But that list was not complete. I know that now, but I didn't then. I forgot to include things like creativity and writing and space just for me. I'd put family and children and home on it, but neglected the wishes and dreams and spots for the things I didn't yet know I needed. And smoking, as bad and awful as it is, allowed me that space. It reminded me who I was, what I dreamed about long ago, and more recently, all dreams that lived in a nebulous land I didn't understand could be real. It said, you can have things. No, not things, but ways of being, that I could make it happen if I was brave enough. It held my hand, and that's fucking stupid, but it did. This addictive stick of nicotine and a million other things followed to lead me up and out to here and now. It's all raveled together, all of it. A summer in the fields of sunshine, of smoke curling up, of flicked ashes and washes of grief and glimpses of what can be. I'm grateful for all of it, even knowing the hard work in front, of saying goodbye again to this old friend who cannot stay, knowing how difficult this will be, but also how necessary, given the decision to keep what is good and discard what is not. I don't want the slow suicide, nor do I want to live in the land of hiding what brings more bad than good. That night on her deck, surrounded by the scent of the flowers she's nurtured early in spring, ones she tends to with meticulous love, was a night of comprehension and of choosing her and what is like her, a summer of solitary and sitting quietly, of listening to crickets and chattering poplars and wind brushing grain, was made complete by joining past to present and linking the two to the future I now see. Not perfectly, it's not a stock image of how it will be. That's not what I mean. What it is, though, is settling into understanding that much like every step I took brought me here, right here, exactly now, is also how I move forward. Every path and foot placed will take me toward what I dream.